No, we're not. All right. Okay, so we want to talk about a little bit about Ozempic, Wegovy, and weight loss. I've touched on this a couple times before, but I want to kind of bring everything kind of together. Peptides for changing metabolic function are fantastic. I love semaglutide. It is really beneficial for certain applications. I would not tell you that it is something that you should do by itself. I wouldn't ever recommend it just as a, trying to lose weight and so you take it. But I'll also tell you that weight is the worst possible way to measure function, health, or your plan. You should never ever use weight alone as a marker. One of the big reasons for that is because of what I've seen with Ozempic and Wegovy. We've had people come in, people start getting referred over because people can't figure out what's wrong with them. They can't stand up very well anymore, and this is neurologic or this is this. No, what happened was that they took Ozempic or Wegovy. They're both based on semaglutide, and what ended up happening was that they lost so much muscle mass that they have trouble standing up now. So the issue you run into is if you're just going off what the scale says, that's a horrible plan. Because if you lose 10 pounds of fat, good job. You lose 10 pounds of muscle, horribly problematic. All your metabolic functions in your muscles, all your health lives in your muscle. Your ability to burn fat lives in your muscle. Your ability to move around lives in your muscle tissue. Muscle tissue sends a lot of information to the brain that is extremely important for decreasing pain and increasing what we call proprioception, which is how your body knows where you are in space. So losing muscle is the worst thing that you can do for your health. And what ends up happening is that when you base your diet on calories or your metric of how we're going to do things, like success is based on weight loss, you've already started off in a really, really, really bad place. We have a lot of patients who, like when I work with them to do, fixing their diabetes or just getting their body where they want it to go, in the first, say, week, 10 days, to lose between 5 and 10 pounds. All that is inflammatory water weight, and that needs to come off. Then usually from there, we don't see a lot of weight loss. And the reason we don't see a lot of weight loss is because we're adding muscle tissue. So we're increasing metabolic function, we're increasing health, we're increasing energy, we're increasing information to the brain, we're increasing functionality, decreasing the body's ability to break bones and tear ligaments and tendons, radically increasing health by adding muscle tissue. And we're losing fat at roughly the same rate. And because of the way math works, if you add 5 pounds of muscle and lose 5 pounds of fat, the scale says you haven't done anything. Your weight doesn't change. So that's why I tell people using weight is a terrible metric. So what you want to do is you want to be like, are you getting stronger? Are your clothes getting looser? So are you getting more energy? Like, you want to start measuring it in ways that is not so ambiguous. Because if you lose water weight, if you lose inflammation weight, you lose bone tissue, you lose muscle mass, or you lose fat, you've lost weight. Only one of those do you really want to lose, the inflammatory weight as well. So 2 of the 5 you do want to lose. The 3 of them you definitely don't want to lose. And so if you just go with weight, you're going to have problems. So the other thing that we see with unregulated use of Wegovy and any of the semaglutide stuff is you start to have problems with metabolic function. And this deals with muscle loss as well. But when you force the body to work outside of its normal range for a long period of time, what you oftentimes end up seeing is we see breakdowns in other tissues or other areas. So when we start seeing decrease of function in the eyes, or we see liver issues, or we see any of these other things, it's often because the amount of nutrient function that you're bringing in has collapsed. Your body desperately needs specific chemicals. So saturated fat, super important. I know the government and the medical system told you that saturated fat is bad for you, but it's not. It's hypercritical to all the cells in your body, to your brain, and to your lungs. You're the surfactant, the thing that's in your lungs that allows your lungs not to stick together, that's made of saturated fat. So you desperately need saturated fat, which comes from animals mostly. So you have saturated fat thing, which you're not getting in. You're not getting in all your nutrient levels. So if you're not eating, because this is usually what ends up happening with Ozempic and Wegovy, these peptides just make you just not eat. And so what ends up happening is people are eating, not a great diet, but enough that has enough nutrient function that's keeping them functioning. And they just stop bringing that in. They don't supplement very well, or they don't supplement at all. And then they wonder why their bodies break down. They're like, why did I get this cancer? Or why did I have this issue or that issue? Or why are my eyes or liver? Why is this stuff not working? Because you're not giving it the chemicals it requires to function. That's it. So if you're going to use Wegovy and these type of things, Ozempic, these type of things, any GLP-1, you need to make sure that you're getting your vital nutrients in. And depending on who you are, those nutrients are going to be a little bit different. So for instance, like most people, methylated B vitamins is the right call. If you have COMT issues, you really want hydroxycobalamin, not methylcobalamin. So you've got B vitamin issues, you're not getting those in. Most people have a parasitic infection. Now, if you don't clear the parasitic infection before you start, consuming and utilizing the Ozempic and stuff, this parasitic infection just gets worse. And guess what it's doing? It's filling your body with inflammatory chemicals while stealing all nutrients and eating tissue as well. So you have that issue that you haven't dealt with. So that's problematic. And then you have this overwhelming lack of nutritional function to begin with. So you're not bringing in more amino acids, so you can't replace or regenerate the muscle tissue that you're losing. Your body also has to create sugar for your blood. So it has to go through gluconeogenesis. So it's going to eat your muscle tissue there as well. Then it's not being regenerated. We're going to have a hormonal problem because you're not bringing in the nutrients to create your hormones. So your testosterone is going to start to drop. You're going to start having dysregulation of everything else. We start having issues with leptin, and because GLP-1s help kind of increase the functionality, or they hit the receptors for leptin, so you're not really hungry. And so we also have a little bit of ghrelin mess up because your body's not regulating itself properly. So you're going to have a little bit of a hormonal function problem. You're not getting in your omega-3 fatty acids, so we're going to have inflammatory issues. We're going to have nerve function issues. We're going to have all sorts of things. We're not bringing in any of our things to any new outside nutrients to provide mineral function. So we're going to have damage to inflammatory functions in the brain and the liver, all your metabolic function. So you're missing out on a giant amount of stuff. So the idea of, well, we just won't eat. Even some of these guys who are doing these long water fasts, bad idea. Do not starve your body of the chemicals it requires to function. The B vitamins, the CoQ10, the NAC, the omega-3 fatty acids, these type of things. Don't do that. And if you guys are going to go in long fast, at least do a kill and refill first. At least kill the parasites, the yeast, the bad bacteria, the viral stuff that's in your gut. Kill all that stuff first, so it doesn't just sit there and populate while you're not eating. So the idea of I'll just stop eating for my health, not always a great option. And then taking a peptide that makes it so you don't want to eat, so that you just don't eat and don't take anything in your body, also not a great option. The idea that your body can survive on air and hope and dreams for as long as you want to doesn't work. It's not a good idea. So you're going to want to supplement all the way through. Now we can all argue about fasting, and I go, well, if you consume anything but water, you're not fasting. All right, I don't care. Well, you're not going to get the autophagy. Show me the research that shows bringing in extra B vitamins and CoQ10 is going to stop autophagy function. So, and here's the thing. Not everybody needs autophagy. I don't think very many people are healthy enough to do that. Because again, your body still desperately requires all of the chemicals to run itself, and butchering your own cells to steal it and cannibalizing those cells to get it isn't always the best option. Because that's what autophagy basically is your body runs out of the nutrient it requires, and so it sacrifices another cell or group of cells to take those nutrients to then go feed the other cells in a desperate, survival function method. Not always the best option, especially if you're not in good health, and the vast majority of Americans are not in good health. So when we start looking at, can we lose weight with Ozempic and Wegovy? Absolutely, you can. Should you be using weight as your goal? Absolutely not. Now, can you lose fat? Yes, you can definitely lose fat with Ozempic and Wegovy, and you can put that together in a really easy way. But you've got to make sure your testosterone's up. You got to make sure that you're feeding your body the chemicals it requires. Collagen's a great option for this. You've got to put the methylated B vitamins. There's a list of things you need to do this safely. So now I tell people I love this stuff because it really does help with type 2 diabetes. I love fixing type 2 diabetes. And oftentimes we'll use it to help with that. And so, yeah, like, is it worth the risk to fix type 2 diabetes? Yeah, because in usually about, 2 to 4 months, you can fix type 2 diabetes. And then you can walk them back, because the entire time I do this, I'm teaching people how to eat, how to function, how to work out, how to supplement. We fix their hormones. We've done all these things. And so it's stripping off, 20, 30, 40 pounds of fat over the course of the program, while they learn to eat, while they learn to hormone balance, while they're lifting weights, is great. But again, a lot of people that we work with, even with the semaglutide stuff, these guys are swapping muscle for fat. And so at the end of the day, they might only lose 10 pounds on the scale or 15 pounds on the scale, where they've swapped, another 30 pounds of fat for 30 pounds of muscle. So again, they lose the 10 or 15, but that's as low as they go, because while they're radically changing their body tissue, their weight stays the same. So they look better, they feel better, they're substantially healthier, but their weight hasn't really moved all that much. And so that's one of the most important things to recognize, is that just because you have a certain weight doesn't mean that that weight is bad. Like, I mean, I weigh 260 pounds, but I've got, you can see my six pack, you can see my obliques, you can see all that stuff because I'm really lean. So there's a difference between being 260 pounds and being 40% body fat, and being 260 pounds and being 8% body fat. So the weight doesn't really matter. And I know a lot of women out there, you guys have been like, well, we've been told that if I don't weigh a certain amount, that I don't have good worth, or I'm not attractive. That's trash, 100% trash. The amount of award-winning, champion bikini models, and, that I've worked with, that everyone's like, oh my God, she's gorgeous, that weigh a lot more than you think they do, is about all of them. I've got some 160, 170 pound, 5'7", beautiful women that I've been able to work with, that, 160, 170 pounds is, sounds like a lot, but it's not when it's mostly muscle. And that's what we have to start to recognize, is that the weight that you have on the scale is kind of an irrelevant marker. How much muscle do you have? How much fat do you have? What's your bone density? Like, how much water are you carrying? Are you healthy as far as the amount of water you have? Like, I've had a lot of people who will drink water, gain a couple pounds, and feel really terrible about it. Being properly hydrated is important to your long-term functional health, to your skin. You don't want to have wrinkles and lines, and you don't want to look old and like an old leather bag when you get older. Drink the water, keep it in. I've had a lot of people who are talking about, one of the things you can do if you want to do like a week challenge and show people that, I can lose weight, blah, blah, blah. What you do is, before you weigh in, you drink a gallon of water. So water is 2.2 pounds per liter. A gallon's roughly 4 liters. And so you're looking at about 9 to 10 pounds of weight gain. Then what you end up doing, that's on top of the normal. So you're going up about 10 pounds. You don't do anything fat, muscle, or anything wise the entire week. In the last 2 days, you don't drink anything. And so you get significantly dehydrated. So that 10 pounds you put on at the beginning, you peed out in the first couple hours, and then you dehydrate yourself, and you can make a 15, 20 pound weight swing in a week and not change your fat or your muscle, just playing with water. So weight, we really have to stop using weight as a marker of health, a marker of, where we want to go. And definitely we have to stop using weight as a marker of, is somebody attractive, or this is where I want to get to, or these things like that. Because people always come in, they're like, I want to lose 20 pounds. And I'm like, okay, why? I'm like, well, because I think I'd feel better. Why? Because the scale says you derive your self-worth from the number on a scale? That's horrible. That is pathological. We need to start recognizing that your worth as a human being has nothing to do with the amount of weight you push down on the gravity with. You use gravity to push down. That has nothing to do with it. Now, if you're like, I want to lose 10 pounds of fat, cool, great, we're on that. Losing 10 pounds of fat and for a lot of people, will make your health levels go up. If you're like, hey, I don't want to lose 10 pounds of fat, but I want to look like this. I don't care how much I weigh. Perfect. Love that. Because we're going to swap fat for muscle. We're going to tone you up, and you will feel fantastic. You might even go out. Like I've worked with some women over the course of time that have gone up 10, 15 pounds in weight, but have loved the way their body looked at the end of it, because it was more about, I want to be healthy and I want to look good. I want to achieve this look. I want to achieve this level of functionality, this health. I want to be able to bench press this and squat that, and run this and do this like stuff for CrossFit stuff. Fabulous. We can do that. But you got to let go of this idea that weight in and of itself is a good thing to measure how your body is functioning and how you tie it to health in any way. I know the medical guys tie it directly to their health. I think we've kind of gone through, the medical community has a very, very, very bad, very, very poor message. This has been lied to the entire time, which is why everyone here thinks that calories are the way to go, opioids aren't addictive, cholesterol is a problem, masks prevent viruses, vaccines are totally safe. This is why these are the lies that have been perpetrated. And how much you weigh is important is another one. So if you guys have any questions, hit us up, questions@chalmerswellness.com. Or if you guys have any other things, hit us in the DMs and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a fabulous day. Thanks for your time.